Up. Let's do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
I respond, take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative.
You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah!
11 got it. Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
Oh, thank you, Chris. I thought I pushed it off. All right. Let's start all over. Yay. Great. All right. Welcome to the greatest day in motorsports. Let's start this over. Greatest day in motorsports. We started off at Monaco already, and they couldn't even make it a lap before deciding to tear up 3 to 5 cars. They are currently red flagged and waiting for repairs to a safer barrier before they can get back racing. Looks like they're suiting back up to get back out there. But Monaco will start today, and Formula One will then hopefully head to Indy. My guess is Indy will definitely be delayed. I've got a radar app watching the radar. I think we're probably 2 to 3 hours before we start to see rain move into Indy, and then I think it's going to be at least 3 to 4 hours of rain of delay. I don't know what type of track drying equipment they have in Indy. I'm sure it's Indianapolis. They probably have some of the best, but we're talking about a 2.5 mile track. It'll take some time to get that track dried off. Now the question is, can Larson make it from Indy to Charlotte or Charlotte to Indy? My guess is Indy races tomorrow. So it'll be an inverted double for Kyle Larson. But I also, in my opinion, think that Larson should, if they're going to delay until like 4 or 5 o'clock and race the Indy 500, which I think would be very optimistic because there's a second batch of rain that's supposed to come through the area at that point in time. I would say the priority needs to be Indy. They put too much time, they put too much effort. He's got a really fast car. He's qualified in the top 5, starting in 5th. He's got to win at NASCAR. I think NASCAR will give him the waiver. There's too much popularity and too much talk about it. You've got Justin Allgaier there who's ready to race. But I think potentially best case scenario is the Coke 600 happens. Larson then flies back to Indy, get some sleep, and drive the Indy 500 tomorrow. But let's see. I don't know. Who knows? I think Larson is way better play if the delay 500 keeps him more focused at the Coke 600. Yes, no, I mean, Larson, regardless of the only issue with Larson is whether they get weather delayed and then race in the afternoon and Larson stays in Indy. Then it's going to be a mad scramble to change your Draftkings. I would not place a bet on Larson to win until you are sure that he's going to actually be in Charlotte or at Indy. So I would stay off of any like hard bets that you would have to either cash out early and you would still lose a little bit of money typically if you do that. And I'm not sure which booking sites would, if he doesn't end up racing in the race, would just refund the money. So it's hard to say. I would stay away from the betting market on Larson until you're sure he's going to race in whatever race you're betting on. So you think Larson might not race tonight in NASCAR? My bad, I just came in. There has been talk about it. The talk earlier in the week was that Larson's focus would be the Coke 600. I think there's too much time, money, and effort put into the Indy 500. He's got a good qualifying spot. In my personal opinion, and I've heard people who are in the know say both sides. I've heard them say he's gonna be in Charlotte. He's gonna race the 600 regardless. And I've heard other people just as credible say, nope, absolutely not. He's going to race the 500. I think he should focus on the 500. It's not something that happens very often. We've got Justin Allgaier there to take over in the 600. Yeah, there's a driver who could take over in the 500, but I'm fine either way. I'm just telling you my personal opinion. I'd like to see him race the 500. So we get to see him race 36 times in NASCAR. You don't ever. I mean, this may be a one-time chance. So Just my personal opinion. But I would stay away from betting him, and I would have the ability to make changes to your DFS lineup. I mean, we're going to have at least an hour, hour and a half before we can make changes. I would not set your lineups now with Larson in them, and then have to go back and make a change. I would just wait on making your setups until, if you're running Larson in any of your setups, I would wait to put those in until you're sure on which side he's going to be. So, just my take on the Larson thing. But either way, let's take a look back real quickly at the All-Star race. Joey Logano led wire to wire, and boy was I wrong last week. So apologies to anybody who took my advice last week, because I got absolutely killed in this race for DFS. Multiple reasons. I mean, after practice, I guess we could have seen from the open race that the tire just was not going to fall off, and the tire still did not fall off. And I feel bad, but don't feel bad for NASCAR. They've got a real issue with this short track package. And it's not a package, it's not a tire, it's not an engine, it's the size of the wheel is really what this comes down to. The wheel is and the tire is just too wide, and it just grips so well at these lower speeds on these shorter tracks. And until they can get a more narrow wheel, I mean, Goodyear has already said that they are on almost the softest compound that they can make. And I think there's probably more, but I think they're scared of the tire at that point blowing up or popping. And I could see Goodyear's dilemma that they're in. But until they make a more narrow tire, I mean, that's what we used to have in the last generation car. I mean, I think that the tire's 2 or 3 inches wider on this new car, and compounded over 4 tires. I mean, that's a lot more traction. That and the arrows downforce setups in these cars, it grips so well. So either way, that was last week. Let's just skim over it. It's the All-Star race. I don't put it into much of any of my algorithms because it doesn't have the entire field. But yeah, I missed bad last week. In fact, I think I was texting with Family Man that last week may have been my worst week this season. And as you could see by all the thumbs down, I definitely missed the Joey Logano. I mean, wire to wire pretty much. I mean, Brad K led a lap on pit road, all because of pit selection. But I mean, Denny Ham and Bubba Wallace both did really well. I mean, Kyle Larson had a good day, but he didn't fit in because of his price with everyone else. I thought Michael McDowell would have lost a couple spots, but he stayed right where he was. Same thing with Ross Chastain. I thought Chris Buescher may end up having a decent race. I did have him in a few of my lineups. And the only one I've completely faded out was Joey Logano. And when Joey Logano leads all the laps and has almost a quarter of the fast laps, if you don't have him, your day's done, especially when you've only got 20 guys to choose from in the field. So, bad day for me last week. The optimal lineup challenge does not change because I do not put it into the challenge. I just use points races as the optimal lineup challenge. But as you can see, here's the rest of it. And until they can fix the short track package, it's the thinking on it is going to be weird because all of a sudden you'll have a race like we did at Bristol where it just is absolutely surprising. So we'll kind of keep our ear to the ground and see what happens coming up in the next short track. And I think that next one will be in Iowa or Richmond. I can't remember which one comes up first, but they're doing a elongated test at Iowa since they haven't raced there in many years, and I'm not sure the Cup Series has ever raced there. So they'll have a longer practice session, so we might be able to get more data. But we had a decent practice at North Wilkesboro, and it did not turn out near the same. So here's that data from practice, and I mean, it's a jumbled up mess because what they did in practice and what they did during the race was absolutely two different sides of the coin. Tire fall off in the soft tire did not fall off. So either way, that was last week. It's the All-Star race. I'm over it. I'm moving on. But we head to Charlotte for the Coke 600, the longest race of the year. Yeah, it's always exciting, from bright sunshine to the dark of night, from hot track temperatures makes the track very, very slick, to nights where the speeds pick up, which still continues to make the track slick, but all the parameters change and your setups change. So it's, what teams are the best at making the optimal changes as the track changes and the weather changes. And it's going to be typically your big guys. It's going to be the Hendricks. It's going to be the Penske's. It's going to be the Gibbs. 2311's kind of up there now. They're really good at making adjustments. The other thing is we're going to have a minimum 8 pit stops. They can't go 100 laps, and that's what all stages are 100 laps each. So they will have to make at least one pit stop in between each stage break. So we will have at least 8 pit stops, and who's going to make green flags and who isn't. So 2 things to keep in mind when we're thinking about our lineups. To keep in mind, the number 1 pit stall has been an absolute moneymaker. We saw it 2 weeks ago at Darlington. Tyler Reddick, yes, he didn't finish well, but he still was able to lead a ton of laps, get out in front of everybody because of that first pit stall. Well, Ty Gibbs has got that this week. And Ty Gibbs' pit crew is one of the better pit crews in NASCAR. Top 5. So keep that in mind. He's going to be able to get on and off pit road very well. He could easily make up positions if he loses them on the track. And, as we've seen at any 1.5-mile track so far this year, the dreaded aero package and air blocking is real, and clean air is king. So until the tires kind of fall off, whoever's got that lead spot is going to be somebody who's going to lead a lot of laps. And I think Ty Gibbs has an opportunity tonight to lead a ton of laps. As long as he can keep his head straight. He was there for the entire race at Darlington. I think we potentially see Ty Gibbs get his first win tonight, and he could be pretty dominant. So we'll kind of get into some of that, but we are headed, like I said, to Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is an intermediate quad oval style track. It is a 1.5 mile in length track with 24 degrees in the banking. The race length is 400 laps. They've got 3 stages tonight, all at lap 100, 200, 300, and the final end at 400. Dominator points of 280, and I think Dominator points will play into it. The fast lap portion may not pull as much, but I think Dominator points, as we've seen the last couple races, has come back into play. And NASCAR, if anything I've learned over the many years, is all about trends, and the trend is Dominators are back, and to kind of keep those in mind. Last year, Ryan Blaney started in 8th, finished in 1st, had 163 laps led. This is kind of Ryan Blaney's turning point last year that kind of vaulted him into the playoffs, and pretty much from this point on, he started to run better, except for a couple road courses. But Ryan Blaney's season really kind of got headed in the right direction after this Coke 600 win. But as you can see, William Byron had the pole position last year, ended up finishing in 2nd. He led 91 laps. It wasn't the 163 that Ryan Blaney led, but we're going to also try to focus on which of these cheap guys is going to be something, and we're going to need one or two of these value cheap guys to get into the money. I mean, the nice thing is, like a Ty Gibbs or a William Byron or somebody like that who's starting up front that could lead a lot of laps. We're gonna have to find some cheaper options, and we'll get into that in a minute. But the first year with this next gen, it was a lot of place differential. And place differential is definitely something we'll need to keep an eye on, but finishing positions will also be as important. So with 400 opportunities to get dominator points, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on those. In the previous generation, Kyle Larson started first, finished first, led 327 laps, absolute dominant. Now, he didn't race at Indy that year or any other year, but he was very, very dominant. We do see typically at least one car or one driver have a dominating points day. So definitely kind of keep that in mind, and finding that one is going to be key. So when we look at our top 15 in DraftKings points and their starting positions, the front row has made the top 15 in DraftKings points every race, either first or second. So keep that in mind. Do not be scared of the front row this weekend. And starting in the top 5, the average is 3. 3 guys finishing in the top 15 are coming from starting spots of 5th or better. A 2.4 for 6 through 10. The sweet spot really kind of seems to be the 11 through 20, with the next one coming at 21 to 30. Not a ton of guys from 31st or worse end up making the top 15 in points, but you definitely don't want to fade them. I mean, like a Chris Buescher is going to be a great example of that today. He is very quick at these types of tracks. He's shown great speed over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I definitely expect him to be highly owned and probably at least in the top 15 in points, if not better. Family, I noticed 12 cars did not finish last year's race and 14 in 2022. That's just hang around the back, finish 25th, and get you 20 to 30 points as a result. Long race, a lot happens. Oh yeah. This next gen car has definitely led to some amazing racing on the intermediate 1.5 mile, 1.33, 2 mile style tracks. It just races really well. The surface, pavement, asphalt, whatever you want to call it, at Charlotte is now finally starting to slightly age, which has kind of left everybody kind of scratching their heads after practice. The track ended up being extremely loose. The crew chiefs will tighten it up, but as the temperatures change, as the conditions change, we're definitely going to have some clouds in the sky, which could throw some shade on the track, which could cool it off in the middle of a start to the run. There's lots of things, and that's the crazy thing about Charlotte, or the great thing about it, is it changes so quickly with temperature change to making it loose and tight and fast and slow and all of the above. And now with a little bit of slight tire wear, it's not atrocious, but we are starting to see some tire wear at Charlotte. So it's going to be a fun race. It's going to be a long race. Yes. This is all about endurance. Who can survive? Who can not be one of those 12 to 14 cars that don't end up finishing the race? And family man, you nailed it right on. You nailed it right on the head. It's just there's going to be some attrition. I mean, it's 400 laps. It's 600 miles. It's the longest race of the year. And there's guys in this field who have never ever raced a race that long. Josh Berry, Shane Van Gisbergen. But then you got guys like a BJ McLeod who have raced this race, I think, 6 or 7 times now, who understand what it takes to be there at the end. And no, do I think BJ McLeod's going to finish in the top 20? If we see enough carnage, maybe. But he's starting in the back. And if he can just gain 10 to 12 spots and not be involved, he all of a sudden at his price tag becomes very viable, because now you can run 3 or 4 guys that are $8,000 and above. That's what that type of stuff does. And we saw that, was it last year or 2 years ago, with JJ Yaley making the optimal lineup. So yeah, it's just going to be attrition. And once again, I have brought back the practice speeds. I keep kind of tweaking this a little bit. So I now have the Fast 8 in practice single lap speeds. I also have the 30 lap next to it and their fall off. And until I can get more lap by lap data, I don't know the difference on why Bubba Wallace had a second to fall off, but Ty Gibbs only had less than 3/10. So in my personal opinion, I don't think Bubba Wallace scrubbed off his tires. I'm not sure that he didn't get slowed up with somebody coming onto the track or getting off of the track, or it's really hard to say without having lap by lap data what this 10 lap fall off really shows, or what the 10 laps really show. Because I mean, if Bubba Wallace really did have a setup that was extremely fast at the beginning and then fell off that much for 10 laps, that's definitely an indication. But if Bubba Wallace was coming into pit road, or he got slowed up because of an issue on the track, or he was trying different lines, it's so hard to say without having lap by lap data. But either way, so that's why I'm kind of looking a little bit more at single lap speed. But we also see that the 4 fastest, and the 4 fastest from each group, were definitely Group 1 was faster than Group 2. And that's been the case for every race that we've had this year, with these 2 different groups. Group 1 is almost always faster than Group 2. And then it kind of equalizes once they kind of get into qualifying. Kyle Larson or Carson Hocevar unloaded extremely fast, and he fell off almost as much as Bubba Wallace did, and he qualified in 20th. So, do I think Carson Hocevar is a play that could be a top 10? I mean, he might knock on the door of a top 10 if there's some enough attrition. He was definitely around. He's been around almost every race so far this year, and kind of just hovered in that 13th to 20th place. And if all it takes is 4 or 5 cars in front of him having issues, and Carson's able to survive, then he ends up with a great day. So starting at 20th is kind of an interesting spot for Carson Hocevar. But I mean, Ty Gibbs with the pole position, with the first pit stall, is going to be something to watch. I think Ty Gibbs is going to lead a lot of laps today. William Byron on the outside pole is also somebody that's going to be very interesting to watch. The 2 of them are going to battle each other all day today, especially if we've got cautions and restarts, and they're able to hold positions in first and second. Both these kids are very aggressive. Ty Gibbs is a little more aggressive than William Byron, and Ty Gibbs wants the win more than William Byron. This is kind of lining up to really kind of be a potential first win. Jeff Gordon got his first win at Charlotte. There have been a lot of other drivers who've gotten their first win or had really good finishes at this race who have vaulted their seasons, their careers, into being something really special. And I think this is kind of lined up to be kind of a Ty Gibbs kind of day. Just my personal opinion. There's no real true hardcore data to back that up, other than what he did at Charlotte or at Darlington 2 weeks ago. But I think I like the Ty Gibbs play a lot today. Our slow 4, Zane Smith, Ty Dillon, BJ McLeod, and Shane Van Gisbergen. I mean, not surprising at all. This is the first non-super speedway that Shane Van Gisbergen is running the next-gen car. He's going to struggle for a little bit. Truex is a favorite driver tonight. Who's your favorite? My favorite driver, I honestly think I'm going to be Ty Gibbs. for finish. Maybe not necessarily for DraftKings, because it always scares me to take front rows and as my favorites. I will not be fading completely away from William Byron or Ty Gibbs. But are those my favorites? No. I think Truex is somebody who is very compelling, even though he's starting in fourth. But we'll kind of get into who I think my favorite for DraftKings. If Larson does not run Indy earlier, I like the Larson play if he is in Charlotte. I also like the Denny Hamlin play coming from 11th. I think has a real good potential. But we'll get into those. I don't have all the drivers right here. I just have all these practice speeds. So the guys with the least amount of fall off for 10 laps, because I've been doing this every week recently, I put this in here. It hasn't really shown a ton of information, but it's something I'm still kind of just tracking and seeing what's going on. I mean, Zane Smith had the least amount of fall off, but he was also really, really slow. So that would be the indication of, hey, I'm going to go slow. My tires aren't going to fall off. What does that do for him long term? It's hard to say. But I mean, most of these guys, I mean, I don't mind that Shane Van Gisbergen play today. Shane's a very smart driver. He's typically very methodical. Now, towards the end of a race, when he starts to see that there might be some opportunities, that's when he starts to get aggressive. And this car, especially, you can't get aggressive with this car. Well, I mean, you could be aggressive. You just have to be very careful with that aggression level. And it'll be interesting to see how Shane progresses through this race. But I do like Shane starting in 36th. I mean, another real interesting play. I mean, I think we could easily have a first-time winner tonight. I think Josh Berry is in play. I don't love him for DraftKings, but I think he is definitely a very interesting play. Noah Gregson's another one who really, really understands and knows how to drive these mile-and-a-half tracks. He's had great finishes so far this year at the mile-and-a-half tracks, so he's definitely in play. But best cheap value guys. Harrison Burton is kind of in play. His practice speeds, he was in the first group, so his practice speed's a little bit funky, but he's starting in 32nd. And Harrison actually ends up running this race fairly well, and I think it's because of attrition. And I think we're definitely going to see some attrition. The track is just really, really slick. I mean, if you happen to watch practice and qualifying yesterday, Joey Logano was just dumbfounded. He just had no earthly idea. He looked like Kyle Busch 2 weeks ago, leaving Darlington. He just looked like he was a fish out of water. Had no earthly idea what his car or the track were doing. I mean, we're talking about a two-time champion, a guy who's won over 30 races in our sport. For him to be shaking his head, going, "I don't know what to do here," is concerning. But it also tells you how challenging this track is going to be. I mean, Kaz Grala in the second grouping was almost as fast as Harrison Burton. That seemed very interesting. If I'm looking at practices, that's kind of interesting, and he's starting in 33rd. Kaz has raced this race before. He understands the length, and he understands to be patient. And once again, I mean, BJ McLeod. I mean, do I think BJ McLeod ends up finishing on the lead lap? I mean, finishing potentially. Do I think he goes a lap down or two? Yeah, probably. But with lucky dogs, and if he just keeps his car clean, he is easily somebody who could go from a 37th starting spot up to, I mean, if we lose 12 guys, I mean, that's a 25th place finish. And at $5,000 being the cheapest guy on the board, that might be needed. All right, the real reason we came here, the driver by driver breakdown. Let's jump into it. And Kyle Larson, can McLaren get a podium in all three races? And when I say McLaren, we've got the McLarens racing at Formula One. Larson is racing a McLaren prepared car at Indy, and they've kind of got a co-sponsorship going on with this HinderCars.com. As you can see, the McLaren orange on Larson's car. So it's really not a McLaren car, but it's got some McLaren colors. So can all three of them get podiums? I mean, maybe. Right now, McLaren is in fourth at F1. They are back racing, and no surprise, Leclerc is still in the lead. This track is just so difficult to pass on. There just is literally almost no passing zones at all anywhere. It's one of the coolest tracks, and one of the most difficult tracks, but there's just no room to pass. So not sure if anybody else is watching, but I've got it up in the corner to see if anything else drastic happens. I mean, they've already got 4 cars out from that first lap incident. So talk about attrition. There's attrition in Formula One even. Best drivers in the world, so they say. I guess when you get the best cars in the world, that makes it a little bit easier. But Kyle Larson, $11,000, starting in 10th. He was 6th in single lap. He was 1st in 10 lap. So Kyle Larson, once again, mile and a half, very, very fast. Question is, can he, number 1, make the race? Number 2, will it be before or will it be after the Indy 500? There's too many variables here with Kyle Larson. I like Kyle Larson a lot. I have him about 30 to 35% of my lineups currently. I have a second set of lineups pretty close to being ready to go. I'm going to finish those up while I'm watching baseball today at my son's baseball game. So I do have a hard out by 11 today. Actually, by really 10:50. So we've got about 45 minutes left to finish this up, which should be fine. We should have plenty of time to finish. But let's check on the radar. Oh, yeah, it's starting to get closer and closer to Indy for the rain. Yeah, I got way too much going on, and I'm way too ADD. It's all over the place. Squirrel. Larson, I like. He's fast. He's always fast at these mile and a halves. One of the best crew chiefs out there on getting the car ready for changes as the changes happen. Cliff Daniels. So if Kyle Larson is in the race and he makes the race, I will have 30 to 35% ownership. That may come down a little bit depending on if Indy happens and he makes it back from Indy to Charlotte. I could see the call for coming off of Kyle Larson a little bit. I mean, that's a long day. I mean, it's 500 miles at Indy. It's a tough track, and it's a long race, and it's hot. May not be as hot today with the weather, but I mean, well, if this weather moves through and the sun comes out, it's going to be really humid, which will take a toll on your body also. I mean, Kyle Larson's in peak race form. He races 5-6 times a week. But the racing the 500, if he finishes top 3, he's going to have to stay back for some interviews. It's going to make it real tight. And does NASCAR delay the start of the Coke 600 if Kyle Larson is in or out? I think they do. I think they do by 10 to 15, maybe even 30 minutes. I don't think they go anything past 30 minutes, though. I think they say, okay, Justin Allgaier, get in the car and run. So be prepared to potentially pivot away or onto Kyle Larson, depending on your strategy. Denny Hamlin next in line here at 10,700, starting in 11th. He was not bad in practice, especially coming from the second practice group. 15th in single lap, 7th in 10 lap. He does have a win here at Charlotte at the Coke 600. His average finish is 18th. He finished 35th last year. I mean, last year's finishes are last year's finishes, but it shows. I mean, even Kyle Larson, I think last year finished, 30th? Yeah. So, these high-priced guys, they have bad days too, and they get caught up in other people's stuff. I mean, Denny Hamlin's another really viable play for DraftKings. You've got a little bit of potential dominator with Denny Hamlin. His pit crew's pretty quick. He understands and knows how to race his track. He's also pretty good with tire wear. He's also, I mean, when it comes to strategies, Denny Hamlin and his crew chief are really good about creating opportunities. So I like the Denny Hamlin play. He's definitely, I think he might be actually one of the highest usage drivers I've got. I'm going to be in the 40 to 45% range. But I'm also probably faded off of who's going to be the highest owned, which is going to be Chris Buescher. I still will have a decent amount of ownership, but I'm going to probably fade off of Buescher once we get to him. I do like the Denny Hamlin play. He gives you great upside when it comes to where he could finish, where he's going to potentially run, and how well he's going to be able to hold position. So with all those kind of in there, I think Denny Hamlin is quite a good play. Ryan Blaney, next in line here, our winner from last year, 10,300, starting in 16th. The thing with Ryan Blaney is what have you done lately? And I don't really know. He struggled as of late, but he was struggling as of late when we got to Charlotte last year also, and then ended up having a dominating performance. 10,300 starting at 16th. I've got some ownership. Don't get me wrong. But the Fords, I think I even said after last week, I'm like, okay, I guess the Fords are for real now. But then we saw it really seems to be the issue with the Penske's, not necessarily with the Fords. I mean, the Penske's went out in practice, and Ryan Blaney was once again kind of the faster of all the Penske's, but he was not. He wasn't setting the track on fire either. So we kind of got back to where we were a couple weeks ago, especially on this 1.5-mile style track with the Penske's. With Ryan Blaney being kind of the better of the 3 or 4, but not showing the speeds of the RFKs or the Stewart Haas. So I have concerns with the Ryan Blaney play today. I don't mind it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's like I said, I've got 20-25% usage just in case he does what he did last year. But I have some reservations about it, to say the least. All right, William Byron, $10,000. First in single lap, did not do a 10-lap consecutive average, starting outside pole. Does not have a win at Charlotte on the oval yet. It's one of the crown jewels. William Byron is looking to try to get more crown jewels. He's having an incredible 2 seasons with this next-gen car. I expect William Byron to come out and be ready to play. He and his crew chief are also extremely smart, extremely good. His pit crew is very fast. They know how to make adjustments on this car as the race progresses from bright sunshine to afternoon to early evening to the dark of night. This track's going to change a ton. And the William Byron, the Kyle Larson, the Denny Hamlins of the group are going to be around at the end. Martin Truex Jr. is another one. Really good at making adjustments throughout the race and letting his crew know what the track is, how the track is transitioning. So I really expect that the cream is going to rise to the top. Then we're going to have who can survive. William Byron is one of the cream that is going to rise to the top, and starting in second, he's kind of close to being there already. His pit crew is extremely fast. All right, Tyler Reddick, 9,700. Fast in practice, decent in qualifying, but we've got an issue with Tyler Reddick. His team made unapproved adjustments to this car between the time he went through technical inspection to the time that they started to practice, and NASCAR caught him. So Tyler Reddick's penalty was, sure, you can go out and practice. Sure, you can go out and qualify. Bad news for us, he's still going to start in 8th. But before they take the green flag, Tyler Reddick's going to have to drop to the rear of the field for an unimproved adjustment. And because they had had issues getting through tech inspection, it became his third strike. And third strike, and you're almost out. You have to go do a drive-through penalty within the first 3 laps of green flag running. That'll cost you a lap. Now, is that the end of the world? No. Tyler Reddick's going to be fast enough. The problem is if we stay green for the entire first stage, 100 laps, Tyler Reddick's going to be in a real predicament because guys like BJ McLeod, Ty Dillon, JJ Yaley are probably at that point going to be a lap down. And the problem is Tyler Reddick's going to be, number one, starting at the back of the field. He's going to lose a lap, and he's probably going to come back in right towards the rear of the main group or pack of cars. With that being said, once the first person goes a lap down, they don't typically just drop all the way behind everybody else. They kind of hang out in the middle of everybody. So Tyler Reddick's gonna be in a tough spot if the first stage stays green for the entire time. So I don't mind the Tyler Reddick play. It's gonna be a long race for him, but he is really good at 1.5 miles. Team's pretty good about being on and off pit road. They have made a couple slight mistakes this year. They're not as fast as William Byron's crew or Christopher Bell, but they're good. And they were able to get him on and off pit road at Darlington first almost every time. Now that pit selection is huge. That's why I like the Ty Gibbs play, because of that pit selection this week. I don't mind the Tyler Reddick play. He'll get his lap back, as long as he doesn't have any mechanical or getting involved in other people's stuff. If it's a normal, clean, green race for him, he'll get back on the lead lap. He'll contend. I think he's still a safe play. And he has the potential to probably get a top 5. And it's going to be fun to watch him do it. So, Martin Truex Jr., who has a win here at Charlotte. 3 of them actually on the oval. I can't remember if all 3 of them. I don't think all 3 of them in the Coke 600. I think only 1 was. Maybe 2. But starting in 4th, he understands this track. He is experienced. He knows how to save tires. He knows how to make adjustments. He knows how to communicate with his pit crew or his crew chief. Even though half the time it sounds like they're like brothers fighting, but the communication's still there, and the adjustments end up happening. I don't mind the Martin Truex Jr. play here, starting in 4th. I do like him as a potential, chance to win, especially if Kyle Larson's. It takes one person out of the equation, so then you're looking at realistically a William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., maybe Ty Gibbs as a long shot. But I like the Martin Truex Jr. play starting in 4th. He has potential to get up and lead some laps, have some fast laps, and he'll make adjustments throughout the day. So I don't mind the Martin Truex Jr. play. Chase Elliott, who won the Xfinity race yesterday. Now, Chase Elliott was fast, and he was driving the number 17 Hendrick prepared car in the race. And he got a little lucky on getting that win. Now, he was fast. They had great strategy when it came to tires. He was the car with the freshest tires, which helped him get the lead and keep the lead. But Chase Elliott's good on these 1.5-mile tracks. Don't sneeze. And starting in 5th, do I think he's gonna vie for a win? He won at Texas. Sure. Chase Elliott he's just one of those drivers. It's not a whole lot of flash. It's not a whole lot of show. He's just going to go out, and if he happens to be in position to win at the end, then that's what he's going to do. He's going to put himself in a top 5 position with the last stage starting. Now, the question is, can he hold it or not hold it? Make the right adjustments? Maybe. So I don't mind the Chase Elliott play at all. I'm currently sitting at 35 to 40% usage. That might be a little on the high side. But I mean, winning at Texas, which was a tough track, tough tire wear, the track changed throughout the race. I don't mind the Chase Elliott play at all. So, Christopher Bell starting in third. Oh, we're now battling for who's got the worst luck. Christopher Bell, Austin Dillon, Ty Gibbs, not Ty Gibbs, but well, I mean Ty Gibbs had some bad luck too, but not in this realm yet. Kyle Busch, either just bad luck or just cannot figure out the next gen car, or just having just a rough go over the last 6 weeks. And Christopher Bell is right there. I mean, ever since he won, I don't know if maybe they're doing some weird stuff with this car because he's got the win. His name's not Denny Hamlin, so he might be kind of the scapegoat at Joe Gibbs on let's try a bunch of stuff to make sure we're ready for the playoffs. I mean, there's potential there, but until Christopher Bell's luck begins to change and change in a big way, I am probably a fade on Christopher Bell. Now that I say that, you know how this goes. Every time I go, okay, I'm not playing this guy, they go out and they lead 300 laps. Kind of like last week. So mad last week. I don't honestly, I don't know what to do with Christopher Bell. I don't really like the play. Yeah, I think I'm a fade on Christopher Bell. So I could see an argument to play him, but I also could see that it's not a great play. Forgot I was going to do a poll. Here, let's do a poll. Do you like the Bell play in DFS today? All right, we'll let that go. So make sure you vote in the poll. Do you like Christopher Bell in DFS today? Starting in third. He was 11th in single lap, 30th in 10 lap. He has one top 5 finish in his 5 total starts at Charlotte on the oval. Oh, we have a yes. All right, next in line here. We'll run that for the next 15-20 minutes. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button while you're voting in the poll. Oh, Family Man with the sneaky play for Christopher Bell. Okay. I like it. And Family Man kind of has a way of finding the sneaky plays. I do have to give Family Man credit for that one. So definitely pay attention. It won't be very sneaky if we're all talking about it, though. There's not a lot of us here, so I think we're okay. There's a few of us. Actually, the stream's starting to get better and better each week. So I appreciate everybody tuning in and joining me each week while I ramble on about NASCAR and DFS and all the other motorsports that are happening when it's happening, and weather on this other channel, and yeah, all sorts of craziness. Yeah, I mean, I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning last night watching the weather because it got absolutely insane last night with the weather. I feel for the people in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, Iowa, all through Tornado Alley. It has just been devastating this year. Oops. Joey Logano. We just talked about Joey. Struggle bus. Wow. After a dominating win last week to him literally going, I don't know what's wrong with this car. I don't know what's wrong with this track. I don't know. Yeah, Joey Logano, it was definitely on the struggle bus, at least during practice and qualifying yesterday. I mean, they're a smart team. They'll figure it out. But that's really concerning. I mean, best NASCAR TF stream. I've won thousands with Mark Snell. Oh, thanks, man. And I appreciate you tuning in. It's always fun chatting with you also during the race. I really need to get the Discord thing kind of getting up and running. I also do real estate as my real job, and I've got a couple other odd jobs that I do throughout the week. So, along with being a dad and going to baseball games and everything else. So, either way, Joey Logano, struggle bus. And I'm a struggle bus when it comes to keeping my mind focused on one thing. Joey Logano, $8,800, starting in 28th. Practice was bad. He's only got one top 5 finish in 5 races here at Charlotte. So he's struggled at Charlotte ever since they did this repave. I'm not expecting anything to change. I'll have a little bit of ownership because there is a ton of place differential for a 2-time champion. But yeah, I'm going to fade off of Joey Logano. Probably 10 to 15% ownership. He's probably going to be pretty heavily owned, to be perfectly honest, because he won last week. He's a 2-time champion. The Fords have shown decent speed recently. So Joey could burn me twice in less than a week. So we'll see if that happens. Now I am going to take a little bit of Brad Keselowski. I know I've got 10 to 15%, but that probably needs to go up a little bit. Especially that will definitely go up even more. But the Fords and their struggles have me a little bit concerned. Once again, typically we have seen some speed in the Fords in practice. That's been a little bit of an indicator, and I have been fading off of the Fords because they have done really well in practice and struggled, and now they're struggling in practice. I don't know if that's an indication that they're going to flip it and do well in the race. But yeah, I probably should have more ownership than 10 to 15% in Brad K. So, FYI, this will probably go up more closer to 15 to 20%. Starting at 30th, there's just too much place differential. And Brad's going to want to get up there. And Brad's pretty good here at Charlotte. He has a win in 2020. Yeah, I think there's at least 10 to 14 spots of place differential here for Brad K. But we've also seen Brad K come the mile and a half. The RFK cars have shown up. They showed up in Vegas. They were around in Texas. They were around at Kansas. Yeah, the Brad K plays, I think, a much better play than I'm giving it credit for at the 10 to 15%. Chris Buescher, 7th in single lap, 3rd in 10 lap, and then a tire blows, and your really fast race car is to the rear. Starting in 39th will be Chris Buescher. As far as I know, they were able to make repairs to the primary car that they didn't have to go to a backup. I'm really not that concerned about going to a backup. These cars are, they're literally the same car. All I got to do is put the same adjustments into the car, and we're right back to where we were. It's not like we were 20 years ago when literally the chassis for all these cars were literally hand built and made differently. And you would have people like Rusty Wallace, who I can't remember the name of that car, Black Beauty or something. That was his favorite car, and it was like literally you knew that if he was racing that chassis in that car, he was going to be lights out. These cars and these chassis they're all the same. So I'm not worried. Even if they had to go to a backup car, they're still going to end up showing speed. And Chris Buescher has been one of the better drivers, especially on these intermediate style tracks. So definitely like that play. Ty Gibbs, we've talked about it, starting on the pole. 5th in single lap, 2nd in 10 lap. I think he ran the most laps of practice, which is pretty typical for Ty Gibbs. That's what he does. I really like the Ty Gibbs play today. I think this has an potential to be the race for Ty Gibbs, and it could even be potentially dominating. Starting from the pole, having that first pit selection. And as Kevin Harvick was saying during practice, it's 16 feet from the time they drop the jack to where the scoring line is. Yeah, I like the Ty Gibbs play starting on the pole today, especially for dominator points. I think the over under is, does he end up leading over 150 laps? Can I do 2 polls at once? No, I gotta start the other one. That's all right. We'll just do like 1 poll for a few more minutes, and then we'll see. I'll throw another poll. Does Ty Gibbs lead over 150 laps? You can just throw it in the chat also if you want. If you think Kyle Larson, or if you think Ty Gibbs will lead over 150 laps. I'm on the yes. Ross Chastain, next in line here at $8,200, starting 7th. I do not like this play at all. He was 9th in single lap, 23rd in 10 lap consecutive average. Out of the 5 races that we're comparing to, which is all the last 5 races of Coke 600, he's got one time he finished in the top 20, and it did not make it to the top 10. And I don't even know what place it was. For some reason, Ross struggles at Charlotte on the oval. So starting in 7th, I'm going to fade off of Ross Chastain. So if you're trying to be contrarian to me, play a ton of Ross Chastain and play a ton of Joey Logano. And you can also probably throw Kyle Busch in here, because I'm going to stay away from Kyle Busch, even though this is, I mean, if there's a track that Kyle Busch likes, it's Charlotte. But he's driving a car that he absolutely despises and hates. So take one with the other. I don't know. Does that end up making Kyle Busch a potential for today? I mean, he was decent in practice. 13th in single lap, 4th in 10 lap. I mean, as we can see, he's got a 3.8 average finish over the last 5 races here. 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s. I mean, if what have you done at this track goes into it, Kyle Busch is going to be very heavily owned. I am a fade. I think it's likely he leads at least the first 100. This is from Family Man. The question is, can he stay in the top 5 at the end of a long race? Tough call, but I think he can do it. He's a great young driver. Yes. And it was a tragedy what has happened to him with his dad passing away. But I think that has also really kind of made that young man have to grow up. And that's a tough way to grow up. I've lost a parent. It's no fun. Especially being the high of the high and then the low of the low that he went through. But it was a very humbling experience for Ty. And I think he's on the cusp of being one of the top 10 drivers for the next 15 years. And I think his head's finally gotten screwed on straight. So I'm telling you, once Ty Gibbs hits that first one, the field better watch out, because he's gonna be right there with William Byron. He and William Byron are going to battle for many, many years to come, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. But Kyle Busch, I mean, you want a comparison? Ty Gibbs to Kyle Busch, 20 years apart, it's eerily similar. God, Kyle Busch plays a tough play too. He's just been struggling so bad this year. I'm a fade, to be perfectly honest. It just, between he and Austin Dillon and this, I mean, the other question is, if Ricky has the opportunity, does Ricky pay him back on the track? I don't think he does this week. I think Ricky needs to keep everything clean as he can for a little bit. NASCAR is looking to come down on Ricky badly. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Maybe we'll save that for a different stream. I really need to start doing that Tuesday look back and look forward segment. I can actually shorten this segment up a little bit. Alex Bowman, $7,800 starting at 6. I mean, good starting spot for Alex Bowman. Can this finally be a race that Alex Bowman gets on the right side of things? I don't think so. Just to be perfectly honest, I mean, his finishes aren't bad here. He's a 10.8 average finish. He was 20th in single lap, 10th in 10 lap. I mean, all indications are he should probably finish where he starts, but it's also Alex Bowman this year, and it's been kind of a struggle bus too. The struggle bus is actually kind of getting a little bit full at this point. I mean, Alex Bowman's gonna figure something out at one of these tracks, and it's gonna be like, oh, there's Alex Bowman. So I don't know. Is this the week for it? Maybe. Starting in 6th, I'm willing to fade off of it. Bubba Wallace next in line here at $7,700, starting in 12th. He was 3rd in single lap, 19th in 10 laps. So a little bit slowed up there, but I talked about that earlier, was that I don't have lap-by-lap data, so I don't know if that was something that was going on the track. All right. 22nd place average finish. He finished 4th in this race last year. I've got some ownership in Bubba. I don't mind. Kyle Busch is going for his 7th straight top 10 at Charlotte, I believe. It's a record if he can do it. I mean, anytime you got to put a carrot out there in front of Kyle Busch, that kind of tends to give him. Yeah, God, I don't know. Yeah, I can see your point. I don't mind the Kyle Busch play. I'm just not 100% sold on it. Kind of like I'm not 100% sold on this Bubba Wallace play either. Bubba Wallace last year was really good at these mile-and-a-half tracks. This year, it's not that he's been bad. It's just he has not been as good as he was last year. So, I mean, I've got some ownership. I've also faded off a little bit. I don't know. I'm probably even with the field, to be honest. I think Bubba Wallace is probably in this 12 to 15% range, so maybe I'm a little overweighted. Noah Gragson, who's been just running really, really well at these mile-and-a-half style, intermediate style tracks, is now starting in 19th, and his practice speeds were pretty good. 19th in single lap, but his long run speed, or long run, 10 laps, was 6th. So his fall off was pretty good. And he's been doing much, much better than he did last year. So last year's numbers really are not good. I like the Noah Gragson play, especially starting in 19th. I mean, do I think Noah Gragson goes and vies for a win? I mean, sure, that's always possible, but I think it's much more of a 8th, 9th, 10th place finish. I mean, it's 10 spots of place differential. It's $7,500. And this pretty much 6,800 to 7,800 grouping, it's a tough grouping. I mean, Chase Briscoe, same thing, but Chase Briscoe was slow in practice. And he has a tendency to be over-aggressive when he shouldn't be. I mean, Noah kind of has a little bit of that too, but Noah's starting to show a little bit, I don't know. Both Chase Briscoe and Noah both have a tendency to be troublesome. So, starting in 18th, I don't love it. I don't hate it. 5 to 10% ownership. I don't really love it. Eric Jones starting in 34th. Woo-wee. Tons of place differential potential here. But is Eric Jones back? Still bothering him? Can he... I'm sure physically he's going to be able to make it throughout the entire race. Does the back become a distraction for him over 600 miles? Potentially. Starting in 34th, he's not. That's a crazy thing. We got 40 drivers this week. I like the Eric Jones play. I think he's a 18th to 20th, 22nd place finish, but that's 12 spots of place differential. Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for. Josh Berry. Oh, there's so much I want to take. I want to take Josh Berry a lot today. Starting in 13th is just, we're kind of almost in no man's land for Josh Berry. There's not a whole lot of place differential. Do I think he's got the real potential to be a top 10? I mean, yes, there is that possibility. But there's just not enough upside to the Josh Berry play. So I'm a fade on the Josh Berry play. I hate it, but I'm a fade on it. Daniel Suarez starting in 14th. He was decent in practice, but his average finish here is 22nd over the last 5 races. No top 10s, 2 top 20s. I am a fade on the Daniel Suarez play today. I am going to have to start wrapping this up, so we'll kind of cruise through these guys in the back just a little bit. I'll stop on the ones I really, really like. The Michael McDowell, I think he outkicked his coverage again, like he always does. But then he always comes in and surprises me. But I don't. It's a long race. Do I think Michael McDowell finishes better than 9th? I mean, sure, there's always a possibility. Do I think he's going to do it? No, probably not. Austin Dillon starting in 27th, as I've said prior and earlier. Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, the worst luck in NASCAR this year, and I'm not sure the luck changes. Starting in 27th, I think he kind of finishes where he starts. I mean, he might improve 3 or 4 spots. He might fall off 3 or 4 spots. But his practice speeds were not good. His average finishes here are not good. He finished in 9th last year, but as Family Man said earlier, what was I saying? Yeah, last year there was 14 drivers that failed to finish the race. Andrew, what's going on, buddy? Like Gibbs, but will be underweight. He still makes mistakes. A little uncomfortable with the extra laps. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree and understand that 100%. I still, gut feeling is Ty Gibbs gets his win today. Or I think it has the potential to be a first-time Cup winner. And when I say that, I think Josh Berry, Ty Gibbs, or Noah get a win today. Don't know why. Just a gut feeling. And those are kind of long shots. You know, who do I really think is going to win this race? I think Martin Truex Jr. is a great play for a win. I think William Byron is a great potential for a win. I mean, we got 10 cars that really are, I think, really viable for wins. The 5 that I think most likely will get a win. Larson, if he does not race the Indy 500 before coming. I think that even for Kyle Larson, that is a heavy toll. William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, and then Ty Gibbs. Those are my 5 that I like for potential wins. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Needs to throw a better punch. I know he landed it, but it really wasn't all that great. And Ricky's a stout guy too, and he absolutely deserved to clobber him. And I think NASCAR's $75,000 fine is an absolute joke. So mad with NASCAR about that bull. We're headed back to away from the boys have at it. And if anybody remembers what happened when NASCAR started interfering and penalizing every little thing that these drivers started doing, we turned into the biggest beep, beep, beep show where everybody was afraid to touch each other's car, and we turned into a laughing stock of auto racing. And NASCAR's very quickly headed towards that. Or they're telling people, okay, you can't hit each other in person, but you can just absolutely kill each other on the racetrack. NASCAR just needs to stay out of it. My opinion. All right, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I don't love the play today. Starting too far up for me. I think he kind of finishes where he starts. Ty Gillen, starting in 35th. I actually like this play. Todd's a smart driver. He's definitely been there towards the end. He's been racing much better, much smarter. Front Row Motorsports has gotten much better with their equipment. I mean, all of his averages suck, including his practice speeds. But I think Todd Gillen is potentially here, going to be in this race throughout the entire race. He may go a lap down, but if we've only got 20 cars on the lead lap and he finishes 21st, starting 35th, I'll take that at $6,500 all day long. Yeah, boys have at it. When they finally went back to boys have at it, Family Man, NASCAR started to head back in the right direction. When NASCAR interfered and got in the middle of all of it is when NASCAR ratings went down the toilet, attendance went down the toilet. Nobody gave a crap about this sport, including me. I stopped watching. Well, I mean, I watched still pretty much every week, but I definitely was not following it like I had the many years prior. NASCAR needs to stay out of it. All right, I don't want to get too much on around that. I was so pissed earlier this week. This Kyle Busch definitely deserved to get decked. And I hope Ricky takes his car out at some point. This week is not going to be the week to do it, though. NASCAR's got a magnifying on that guy right now. Ryan Preece, $6,400, starting in 31st. I mean, he's the slowest guy at Stewart-Haas. He's also the guy that's probably without a ride for next year. And for good reasons. I mean, Ryan Preece is really good at anything shorter than a mile. He struggles a little bit once we get past the mile and a half. But I don't mind having a little bit of ownership here, starting in 31st. I mean, I think he's kind of more of a 23rd, 24th place finish. I'm not sure that that's going to be enough to really amount to anything, but if we end up having some weird late race strategies, I don't want to be an absolute fade on Ryan Preece, but it's definitely, I'm only 5 to 10% ownership. So, Carson Hocevar, 4th in single lap, so he had really good single lap speed. 20th in 10 lap. He's never raced this long of a race. That is a concern. But he's young, and he's, the question is, can he stay focused for that long? I'm not worried about the physical implications of this race on a guy like Carson Hocevar. It's the mental game that begins to get played. I mean, even Kevin Harvick even talked about it on his podcast earlier this week. He's like, it's just a weird mental game that all of a sudden you look up at the pylon and you're expecting the race to be over and you go, oh, damn, we have another 100 laps to go. And it's just, it's a mentally grueling race. So, I mean, even for Kevin Harvick, who, has won this race many times, it's like, it is just a mental game. Austin Cindric starting in 17th. I think he's starting too far up. As you can see, he's got a negative 10.1 DraftKings average over the 2 starts in the Daytona or the Coke 600. Yeah, he's starting too far up for me, especially being in that car. Jimmy Johnson. I meant to change that. Oh well. Jimmy Johnson starting in 29th. I really wish Jimmy Johnson wouldn't do this to his legacy. Jimmy Johnson just retire and be a car owner. Stop screwing up with your legacy of being one of the best drivers that the sport has ever seen. John Hunter Nemechek starting in 26. I don't love this play. I mean, he came in ranked last on my ranking system. And that's really bad. By the way, my podium prediction might come true. McLaren is up to 2nd and 4th. Fingers crossed. Wouldn't that be cool if McLaren... How cool would it be for Lando Norris to go and win the F1 race, Kyle Larson to win both the other 2 races? That's a pipe dream. Squirrel. Back to what I need to be doing here because I need to get to a baseball game. John Hunter Nemechek starting in 26. I don't love it. Corey LaJoie, $5,900 starting in 21st. Starting too far up for me. He always practices well. I don't understand why he can't correlate a good practice into a good qualifying and good finishing position. But he just has trouble doing it. And I don't understand. I need to listen to his podcast more is what I need to do because I cannot wrap my brain around Corey LaJoie. And I like Corey LaJoie a lot. I think he's great for the sport. God, he is just Jekyll and Hyde. Justin Haley starting in 22nd. Man, I really would like to play some Justin Haley, but he's starting too far forward for me. Outkicked his coverage, in my opinion. I mean, I think he's got more room to go, but I don't think he's got top 10. I think he's got potentially top 20, maybe top 15. And I just don't think that's enough in DraftKings. So I think he's kind of starting in no man's land for me. As much as I want to see him do well. Harrison Burton, I think, is one of the more interesting plays, and I hate taking Harrison Burton. Don't get me wrong. I think he needs to go back to Xfinity for a while. He needs to go back and do what John Hunter Nemechek did. But starting in 32nd, he was decent in practice, and he finished 18th. Now, 18th last year was because of a lot of attrition, as Family Man said. But I think the Harrison Burton play is a little intriguing today. I don't know why. I just think it's intriguing. Zane Smith outkicked his coverage. Way outkicked his coverage. So no interest in Zane Smith. Shane Van Gisbergen. More than likely, he's going to keep his car in one piece. He's going to be around at the end. He's going to stay close to the lead lap, if not be able to get his lead lap back. I think he is probably primed for an 18th, 19th, 20th, but that's 16 points of place differential at $5,500. I like the SVG play today. He's in plenty good physical shape to get to the end. His mental capacity is off the charts. He's so smart when it comes to racing. I like the SVG play at $5,500 a lot. Daniel Hemrick, I think, is starting too far up for my liking. I like the Burton call. I want the guy no one else wants to put in their lineup. Yeah, I think SVG actually probably gets some ownership, but I think Harrison Burton is probably, you want to talk about a sneaky play, you can play the Christopher Bell and Harrison Burton play. There you go. With a Ty Gibbs for the win. Kidding. I think Ty Gibbs is going to probably have a fair amount of ownership. Daniel Hemrick, starting 24th, starting too far up. Kaz Grala, that's another one. He practiced really well. He was 25th in single lap, 14th in 10 lap consecutive average. He finished 23rd in a Coke 600 some point in the last 5 races. I don't know which year it was. It may have been 2020 when he was racing a lot in the Cup Series. But starting in 34th, I just wish Justin Haley was starting in 34th. I would be interested in taking him as much as I'm taking Kaz. So I think Kaz is an interesting play. I think there might be some ownership, though, in Kaz, so kind of keep that in mind. But I do like the Kaz play at 5,300. Ty Dillon, who's racing in the 50 car. I couldn't even find a damn picture for this car. Okay, thanks, Wyatt. Good seeing you, buddy. Yeah, go back and watch the beginning. Good luck today. Just keep an eye on Kyle Larson. Should be interesting. And it does look like, is it raining in Indy? No, but they've got a line of pretty powerful thunderstorms about an hour out. So just as green flag is supposed to happen. So yeah, the delay, I think Indy will definitely get delayed. How long? I don't know. Ty Dillon starting in 38th in the 50 car. I'll be surprised if they make it to the end. I'll be surprised if they make it to lap 100. JJ Yeley, you know what? Starting in 40th, I think it's almost one of those you almost have to have a little bit of ownership because you have nowhere to go but up. But he did no practice. I'm not even sure they fired the car up. No, I know they did. And there was an issue with something, but I'm sure they're going to get it fixed. I mean, to keep an eye on that, I think the JJU play is in play, at least a little bit. I don't have much. Because I'm concerned with why they didn't get any practice in, and they didn't qualify. So, the JJ Yeley play, I could see the play for it. He's got an average finish of 27th. Finished 16th last year. BJ McLeod, he's going to know how to be. He's going to know how to be there at the end. It could be 3 laps down, but if we lose 14 people and he's able to gain 14 spots and finish 23rd, that's a pretty good day. Yeah, it's been a tough weekend. Boy, Sun's been playing well, but it's been a tough weekend. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. I got to get going. Thanks for reminding me. These are the kind of guys I like the best, and that I think are going to be the highest owned: Chris Buescher, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott. Place differential, guys. I mean, Ryan Blaney, Brad Kate, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch, the 4 guys that I go, I don't know what to do with these guys. Here, let's close this poll too. 71% said they were going to play Christopher Bell. All right, very cool. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Drivers up front to stay up front. I really like the William Byron, Martin Truex, Ty Gibbs plays. Christopher Bell scares me, but 71% of you say that you're gonna play him. Either way, good luck for today. Oops, whatever. We'll just stay on this page. Watch the Indy forecast. Find out what Kyle Larson's going to do or not do on whether you play him or don't play him. I think if he doesn't do the Indy and he's just in Charlotte for tonight, I like the Kyle Larson play as a win. If not, I like the Ty Gibbs play or William Byron. All right, everybody, I have got to run. Thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in for the greatest day in motorsports. Have a great weekend. Thank you to all of the people who serve in our armed forces, and for all the ones that have given the ultimate sacrifice. So, thank you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week for Gateway. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here.
Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around at the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am. All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah.
Proud of you there, man. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal we got in here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.